Hello, and welcome to another special feature of the Movie Bros podcast. If you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. This is Duncan, hello, and Hayden.
Hello, hello, hello. Happy Valentines, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day, if you celebrate or if you don't. Either way, hopefully at least like movies enough to enjoy some sort of romantic endeavor in that
I feel like that's
space.
pretty common. Like, unless you're like really, really Catholic, you're not going to be celebrating Saint Valentine.
Oh, no, I just mean like, even if you don't like the holiday or anything like that,
Oh,
at least you can enjoy like romantic movies, even if like they're not heavily romantic. Like even if it's just like
sure,
a
sure.
more of a rom-com versus just a rom. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
fair enough, fair enough.
With that in mind, if you are new, these are kind of a bonus episode. Our regularly scheduled episodes are posted on Sundays. These episodes come out on whatever holiday we decide to do them for. And usually, we've only done 2 or 3 of these at this point. But Hayden and I each pick a movie that we think generally, however we each want to interpret the holiday. We pick a movie that we like for that holiday, and then we both watch those movies and talk about them. And so this will kind of be like a double header and
Um,
a two-parter. Yeah.
and yeah, so it will be a two-parter. And like with some long movies, like this year's The Brutalist, we're actually going to give you a small intermission in the at the midway point. We'll have a small audio break. We'll play some elevator music, and then we'll get back right into our second movie, just so it's not a constant barrage of our voice.
And without further ado, since it's Valentine's Day, we are again talking about movies that are at least semi-romantic, if not very heavy-handedly romantic.
I would say both of these are pretty heavy-handedly romantic. I mean, even the more modern one.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about it. Obviously, I think one is a little bit more like very
Oh, it's definitely more on the
straightforwardly.
nose, yes.
The other one at least has more, I don't know, at least comedic moments to
We'll
it.
we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So we're gonna start this week with Hayden's choice. Hayden, what are we talking about first?
Well, I volunteered the Pride and Prejudice adaptation from 2005. I'm a very big fan. I literally own a copy, and I figured I would try to bring Duncan into that fold, if you will, and have him experience something that I also enjoy. So, Duncan, do you want to run through film facts, or do we want to jump to something else?
Let's do film facts and then let's go from there.
Fair enough, fair enough. This is Pride and Prejudice. This came out in 2005. This is directed by Joe Wright, who you probably have seen some of his other things, or at very least have heard of them. He's done things like Darkest Hour, Atonement, Anna Karenina, and Hana. Pride and Prejudice is actually his first feature directorial debut after a successful string of TV projects back in Britain in the early 2000s. But I mean, for a first feature film, this is not bad at all. Clearly, this is written by Deborah Moggach, Moggach.
Deborah Magog, of course, yeah, my
I,
girl.
I've been trying to mull that over. Like, is it like Kenneth Branagh, where you're not supposed to say all of the ch's? I don't know. So it's Deborah. The actress Emma Thompson also helped with some of the dialogue, although she doesn't actually appear in the movie as a character. And then, obviously, this is based upon the book by Jane Austen, which is known the world over and needs no introduction from me. Music here is by Dario Marianelli, another very what's the word I'm looking for? He is well awarded, but also he is extremely prolific. That's the word. He is in a ton of different genres, all different, unfortunately, qualities of movies, but here's some of the better ones that he will appear under. The Second Paddington, Darkest Hour, obviously, Kubo and the Two Strings, Atonement, Anna Karenina, obviously, The Box Trolls, The Brothers Grimm, and Jane Eyre. Cinematography here is by Roman Osman, and if you've been a long-time listener to us, that name might sound familiar. He was also a cinematographer on Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, one of the other movies from our last special features episode. This stars Keira Knightley in the main role, Matthew McFadden, Donald Sutherland, Carey Mulligan, Rosamund Pike, Jenna Malone, Simon Woods, Kelly Riley, Tom Hollander, and lastly Judi Dench. And the trivia I had for and the trivia I have for this movie is that this was nominated for 4 Oscars in its year, but because it was running in the same year as Lord of the Rings, it won none of them.
That's fair. I mean,
Which
I would do the
it's
same
really
thing.
hard to compete against.
Hey, I mean, when you make something great, it's hard to compete with it.
It's very true. Which
Amelia Perez, it's the same thing, dude. It's hard to compete.
oh well. Granted, I have not watched that. I have not heard a single good review from anyone. The example
The
I would
only
use was from 2 years ago. It is hard to win anything when you are running against Oppenheimer.
foreshadowing there for Oppenheimer, yeah.
Foreshadowing.
I did see recently some little clip of Scorsese saying he really liked Amelia Perez. I was like, "Oh, buddy,
Well, he's
Marty,
going
what are you doing?"
senile. It's fine. We can
He
ignore
is
him.
in his 80s, yeah.
He's an old man.
Okay.
So the things this was nominated for, just out of curiosity, Keira Knightley got nominated for Best Actress, Art Direction, Costume Design,
Yeah.
and Best Original Score. But again, Lord of the Rings existed, so
Mm-hmm.
which I completely understand. And that is all the film facts I have.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this throughout, but I did not look at the cast really before I watched this. So
It's
throughout
full
this,
of huge people.
well, like throughout this, like, if you look at my notes, every once in a while, I'll be like Rosamund Pike or the girl from
Yep.
Drive or like
Mm-hmm.
the Sherlock Holmes Watson's wife. I can't
Yes.
from the show. I can't
Plays a
think of her name,
bitch.
but
Yes.
yeah, plays. I just said mean mugging all the time, but yes, plays a bitch.
She's a conniving, unhappy
Judi
person.
Dench, like, yes, but yes, that was something that I noticed throughout.
Yeah, something that I like literally first wrote down was that I always forget like of the Bennett sisters, like that the whole family kind of revolves around. Every single one of them went on to have award-winning careers after this. Like Keira Knightley, Rosamund Pike, Carey Mulligan, Jenna Malone. Like they've all been either been nominated or have taken home gold Oscars of some kind.
And not just them. I mean, we just saw the father in
Donald
Ad
Sutherland.
Astra, and granted,
I,
he's been around forever, but
I mean, he also recently passed away, unfortunately. But I remember reading a news article about it, and they were interviewing his family. It was like, oh, because he would just turn up to movie sets and ask for roles because he liked doing his job so much. How many movies do you know of that he's actually been a part of? And they're like, since he never kept records, like our conservative estimate, he's probably been in over 200 movies. That's fucking
good
nuts.
on him.
I mean, great, but like that's insane.
Now, before we get to the actual movie, some context, because this is your copy that we watched.
Yes,
this
it
is
is
a DVD copy from when the movie was released.
I would love a Blu-ray copy, and I keep meaning to do so because it's not as sharp as I want it to be.
Before you even get to watching the movie, there's outtakes. There's commercials for movies that were releasing at that time. And I wrote down some notes on this.
Through them. I tried skipping through them.
So first, there's a whole section where your Pippin from Lord of the Rings is swimming the English Channel with a bunch of dudes.
Yes.
What the fuck was that? And then there's also just a really...
It was 2004.
I cannot remember the name, but there was a really, really bad-looking rom-com with Meryl Streep.
Was it? I honestly just fast-forwarded through with my controller.
I've completely blanked it out.
Was it Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson?
No, it was something where like her and some young guy or something, which made me... It was an icky moment.
That's a little weird.
I mean, hey, Baby Doll or Baby Girl or whatever just came out, so...
Yeah.
Anyway, and what this made me think of also when the opening credits rolled for this was Focus feature A24 before A24 was A24?
In a lot of ways, yes.
I even think of it now because the main people that use Focus is people like Wes Anderson. That's like his big main company he uses.
Wes Anderson uses them a lot. All of Leica animated movies use them a lot, and they're definitely not like, huge budget things. So I mean, in a way, yes. And I think A24 is no longer A24 back then
No,
either. Like
no, they're
it's
not.
it's a huge production house at this point.
Which hey, good on them because they've made some really cool stuff. But
I feel
just
like it's
something that
made them
I
lose their
copped.
identity a little bit though.
I did
Different
think even
discussion
just
for a different time,
different
perhaps.
discussion, sure. Even just in the first couple minutes, because I started to think of just how many other things Keira Knightley had done. Dude, she just absolutely dominated the early 2000s was
I
just
mean,
only Keira
Pirates of
Knightley.
the Caribbean absolutely helped her.
Well, yeah,
In
no
fact, I
shit,
think
but
it may even be the same year. I'm going to quickly Google that.
I literally, and also this last week I rewatched King Arthur, where she's
That's a pretty
Guinevere.
solid movie.
It was yeah. We'll
It's
talk
it
about this maybe during our
it's
Oppenheimer
fine.
episode, but
Like,
she's also
you know,
she's again like 2004, like just hammering
so
out movies for her.
so Pirates of the Caribbean Curse of the Black Pearl is 2003. This is 2005. When
And I think
was
King
King
Arthur was
Arthur?
2004.
I mean, she was getting work.
Just again, just absolutely fucking dominating, dude.
Yep, she was a skinny British woman who could remember her lines.
True. I did
Also a
like
good
the
actress, though.
yeah, true. I do like the aspect ratio of this, where it's a little more boxy, feels a little more
I
artistically deliberate.
I mean, I think lots of the camera work here is artistically deliberate, especially something like that. But
Yes,
I wonder if maybe that's a symptom of it being a DVD copy because I maybe there's a widescreen version because
maybe.
because I mean, for fun fact, I own this. I also own Joe Wright's Anna Karenina, as well as Atonement. I'd love to get all three of those on Blu-ray, and I'm wondering if there's like like a combo pack or something. But
Atonement is good, but man, that is a rough fucking watch, dude.
it is like a once in a couple of years watch. Like it is really good, and it is maybe one of the most draining movies I own.
Yeah, not a good. I mean, it's great, but it's oof.
It's it's not what I
Anyway,
would sit down for like
yeah,
decompression time.
Jesus. I do like the openings. Actually, maybe we should so we already said you are obviously a big fan of this.
I
You would
am,
probably rate this
although
what, a 5 out of 5?
I wouldn't actually.
Okay, what would you rate it as?
I give it a 4 out of 5. I think that it is really really good, but it loses steam in the middle, and I wish they explored more of the other sisters as characters more because
A little,
there is
but it's not
another
about them.
adaptation. That's very true. But there's another adaptation that came out in 1995 with Colin Firth instead of Matthew McFadden as Darcy,
Mm-hmm.
which is equally popular, if not more so, depending on who you ask. And that one, it's like 10 hours long, but it's multiple episodes and they quite literally do the entire book. This one just kind of
Well, that's the trade-off. This
tries
is a
to
movie.
hit
It's not a
on
it's not a
every single
series.
one. Well, that's true, but like I don't know, there are other plot lines that are interesting, but maybe not as vital to Lizzie's story. So
Sure, sure.
I, having seen both, I think this one is definitely the more high quality art, high quality artistic version. But now that I've seen the other one, I know it's lacking in some stuff. And yeah, mi- the middle drags, and there's
I
no other way
agree.
around it.
No, I would probably give it probably a similar score. I honestly like after literally right after I turned it off, I was like, oh, I get it. Like it was. I actually enjoyed that quite a bit. Is it like a perfect favorite movie? No, absolutely not. But I actually enjoyed that a lot more than I thought I would. There are some
That's fine.
bits that I would want to discuss, but like,
I'm glad to hear you enjoyed it.
yeah, I'm glad I finally got around to watching it. Jesus Christ, though, are they just thirsty as fuck for any kind of man at all?
Well,
Like,
for that time
I
period,
understand the reasoning.
that's the only way you're not destitute and living in a shack.
Yes, like,
So,
oh, any soldier, any like
yeah,
literally anyone.
it is kind of hard to get away just how lonely all these sisters are.
And I do kind of love the amount of matchmaking that their mom is constantly trying to do. That's great.
Like, she's such a problem.
No, but she like it's like the fun problem that like still
I,
kind of
I
pushes the story along a little bit.
well, I mean,
But
I
I
mean,
also
like,
I do feel bad because again, they're basically like, "Oh, any man, take any man," but then it's
Any man
the
with a
like,
pulse, please, 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 please.
yeah, but then they're like sort of cousin dude.
Yeah, but
I feel
I would
bad for him.
say
Like, but
I
I
do
get
feel bad for him too. Like he's one of the few male characters that there's not actually anything wrong with him other than he's not that handsome and he's really awkward.
well, I mean, he goes on to do other things in, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean, but yes, he
Very
is
true.
just unattractive and awkward, and that's the whole bit.
Yes. Um let me look at my documents.
They do definitely tinge everything with like this yellow glow
They
on
they they
everything.
they very purposely shot almost everything at either sunrise or sunset
Mm-hmm.
because if I remember correctly, Joe Wright, the director, wanted it to look like a romantic painting as much as possible.
That's fair. I
And
can get that.
yeah, so that's why everything kind of has like that golden hour tinge to it.
And I just looked it up, Hayden, but Donald Sutherland so far on
Hmm.
Letterboxd is accredited with 198 films.
That's
Jesus
mind-boggling.
Christ.
That's mind. Okay, so how old was he when he died?
Let me look.
Because if the credited number is 192, and let's say conservatively he started working when he was like 20, right? He would have to be in like 10 movies a year for the entirety of his life.
He died at 88.
So he roughly had 60 years worth of time to make movies.
Yeah.
That is bananas.
I mean, that's
I
3 movies a year, 3.3 movies a year ish, which again, yeah, that is
I think
bananas.
that I mean yes. So something that I really like in this is that the camera is stationary a lot. Either that
I did notice
or it
that.
is it's either stationary or it's tracking someone, and I think it helps to feel like you're watching not a documentary of someone, but it feels like you're watching these characters live out their lives how they would actually be living them, and it would kind of foreshadowing how the director Joe Wright would go on to be very experimental with that when he made Anna Karenina, which literally takes place on a stage while also being a movie. I think it's an interesting idea to see that it probably started here.
Yeah, especially the tracking shots. Like, I think it was the opening, literally the opening scene of her going
Yes,
basically throughout the house, throughout the yards, and it was interesting because it's beautifully shot, but also you basically see every single character. You see their
indeed.
position of like who they are in the house, and it completely sets up the movie more or less. I do know that it's of the time, and it totally makes sense for the time. But boy, is that a lot of white people.
Well, I mean, you
Like
know,
not a tan or
it's.
dark person in any kind of sight. Not
I
even the help.
mean,
Not even like the help was dark.
but that
Just
would have. I
saying.
mean, you're right, but that's pretty accurate. I mean, that
I
would have
know.
been
I
what it
know.
was like. Something that I like because I mean, while I will probably, obviously, certainly recommend people watch this, for people who haven't watched this, it is essentially Elizabeth Bennet, played by Keira Knightley, learning to not be so judgmental and angry at every single man she meets, and also the man she has to fall in love with also has to learn that about her. But in the opening shot when they're in the drawing room and they're I forget what they're talking about. I ingested a lot of movies recently. Um, but her mother leans in to kiss Donald Sutherland, her father, and you can briefly see Lizzie pulling like a disgusted face because she has to, you know, uh, she has to no longer be repulsed by love and marriage by the end of the movie. So they literally show you that she thinks it's disgusting. It's in in the opening,
Singer. But also, speaking of Mr. Darcy,
Mister
uh,
Darcy.
he's just not a good looking guy. I don't get it. He's just not a good looking guy.
I mean, we'll talk about this later when we get to when Harry met Sally, but
Well, sure, but there's there's personality at least with when Harry met Sally. This he has no fucking personality, dude.
Well, I think that that's kind of the whole point of the movie is that he is very guarded with his personality. He doesn't open up to a whole lot of people, and it's only when Lizzie eventually visits him at his home and meets his sister playing the piano that she gets to see him come out of his shell a little bit. And it is only until that point in the movie and the story that it's at that point that she realizes she does actually have feelings for him.
Ugh, feelings. Ugh,
Well,
disgusting.
whatever. Who wants to talk about feelings on Valentine's Day? Ugh.
Anyway, I this movie did make me want to learn some sort of structured dance. Like I was talking to our dad. Well, no, I was talking to our dad about this. I was like, oh, I want to like something I've always wished to learn. Like I wish I knew how to dance, but every time you go to somewhere to go dance, it's very like individual and interpretive.
I don't
Whereas
like club dancing, yeah.
no, that's the thing. I don't want like, or if I go to a wedding or something, it's everyone's doing their own thing. I'm like, that's not
I
how I
kind of
work.
agree.
I want
I kind of
structured.
agree.
But
I
the
agree.
trade off
I
is
would like to do that as well.
like I like the idea of doing like line dancing or square or like swing dancing, but I don't know where I'd really find swing dancing. But at the same time, line dancing or square dancing is a part of, for a lack of a better word, society that I'm just not around.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a country western thing.
Which I like westerny vibes, but I'm not a country boy. I live in like metropolitan. I don't know. So
Yes.
yes, just watching the whole like ball dance where they had several throughout the movie, which of course was of the
3.
time.
Yeah, because
It's
that's
like,
how you
oh,
met people.
exactly. I'm like, oh, I feel like that would be an actual way to meet people organically.
Yeah,
That's
it'd
all.
be kind of fun. Um,
Anyway,
Actually, speaking of that, according to the director, those were some of the most difficult things to shoot, but also the most rewarding when they got it correct because they were using real locations to shoot in, and these rooms were so small and cramped. It was basically just himself running around with a handy cam because a lot of those scenes are I think very effective because they show you are walking in and around a whole bunch of these characters in their natural environment, and it's less like you're hearing people read off Shakespeare lines. It looks a lot more naturalistic. But to do this, every single person kind of had to be like on, if you will, for the entire shoot, even if the camera wasn't there. And so it was, you know, everything was choreographed down to the minute, but it couldn't look like it was.
I I see why I like this, but I am surprised why I liked it this much. And I think part of that is the cinematography and the care that was put into it. Part of it's the story. Uh,
I think it's the level of quality in this version because
sure.
I've having now seen the miniseries version, it's nowhere near as lively and nice to look at. I think it is definitely elevated a lot here.
And speaking of lively and speaking of the dancing, what I actually found quite funny, and obviously, again, it makes sense, but all the conversations that they try to have during the dance that constantly get cut off was actually pretty
which
funny.
which would happen. Like I mean, because if you think about it, yeah, that is funny. I like that for a good hour or so. It is essentially just Darcy and Elizabeth insulting each other as politely as possible every
Hmm.
chance they get. Like, I love that shit. That's so funny.
But I mean, it's funny, but also like looking at it romantically, I'm like, oh, that I totally fucking get that. Some like the right amount of like sarcastic banter. Ugh,
Yeah, I
yes,
mean,
100%. Give it to me. Give it to
but
me.
like, you have to know that you're doing that. Like, don't just
Well,
insult your partner.
yes, obviously, yes.
No, but I agree. Yeah.
Speaking of dancing and speaking of the way this was shot and the care to it, when they cut to them when they're dancing and touching, and it's them automatically they're alone dancing.
Yes.
That was a nice touch. I did like that a lot because it's not what's actually there; it's how it makes them feel.
Correct.
Yeah,
Well, it's
just
just
a
like
nice little touch.
one of the better and bigger moments of you can see Darcy falling for Elizabeth is the whole hand movement where
Mm-hmm.
he briefly squeezes her hand as he's helping her into her carriage, and
Yep.
you can see
Oh
him like
yeah.
walking away shaking.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it's not subtle. They kind of spoon feed it.
It
It's
is
it's it's weird. It's like subtle moments, but then they're like, oh hey, look at this subtle moment. That's how I would
kind of,
describe it.
yes.
Because there's all the things that of them falling in love are little things, but it's so obviously focused on through the lens of the movie.
Yeah, and that's again, that's another difference between the series and this is that not that those moments don't occur, but like there are other things to space it out so it doesn't feel like you're only hitting it flashed in your face.
Sure. Sure.
Um, Circling back just quickly to Donald Sutherland, I love how he plays the father in this.
Oh no,
The
he's
dude
great.
is
He's
the dude
wonderful,
is
dude.
like
He's so good.
he, like he's fine in taking a hand and trying to steer the lives of his daughters. He wants to be left alone to
And
relax
he's like, I
and
don't
tend
go
to his
fuck, dude.
flowers.
Yep.
Like, please leave me alone. Wife, please stop talking to me. Just everyone, please
Well,
go away.
that's why him and the wife are so good together because she's so over the top and
Oh,
he's
she's
so
so
under.
high strung.
Well, not high strung, but more just like she cares so much, and he doesn't. It's not that he doesn't care, but he knows that
She's
like
super like emotive and he isn't.
yes, and he knows that like oh, one way or another, it's gonna sort itself out.
Pretty much. And one way or another, whether he says yes to his wife or not, she's going to do it anyway.
I feel like we should probably talk about him walking through the field in the morning fog with a piano because it's
Oh,
the
oh,
scene.
the scene for the female audience, yeah.
Again, I get it. Like I got again afterwards watching it, I get it. But
So,
like
fun fact, that's not how that scene plays out in other versions. So he's walking, he's got his shirt undone. It's early morning, like
mhm.
like it is.
Oh,
And in other versions,
I don't like his phrasing, by the way. He like
it's
does
not
this
as old world as.
well no, like only that's like the rest of the movie he's fine, but that scene where he like does this like not stutter, but like a like
He repeats the phrase "I love" like 4 different times before he just
yeah,
completes the "I love you."
I don't like it.
It's not my favorite bit of dialogue from him. If anything, I again, the fight that they have in the rain where they're screaming at each other,
Oh, it's great, dude.
it's fantastic. Like,
Well, I literally
I
wrote argument because they the whole time they're arguing, they're getting closer and closer to the point where they're basically about to kiss, but again, they're
right?
arguing. That's great.
And
That's what I want.
and what I love about that argument is narratively, they are both correct. I
Yes.
love that that argument feels earned. And not to do the whole Peter Griffin thing of pointing at the movie theater of oh they said it, like that's what the freaking phrase Pride and Prejudice means. They both have ego issues that keep them from just communicating like adults.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what these kind of problems are like, man. I'm just so good at communication and expressing my needs and wants and desires.
We are both single as shit.
Hey, I
Or
mean, I have a dog.
perhaps didn't we just talk about Tron Legacy where he talked about, hey, do you have a girlfriend? No, I have a dog.
Dude, I am Sam Flynn. Dude, I am Sam.
So some more fun facts here. Bingley's hair, so not Darcy, but the other one, was not originally red. Or
It
sorry,
looks it looks kind of ridiculous, but
so the character's hair is red, but the actor's hair was not, and they used the wrong kind of dye, and apparently it was stuck for that for like over a year.
oof. Well,
And the whole idea of
okay.
it being like such an obvious giant bouffant was they wanted to make him look like a big awkward chicken,
Hmm. Okay. Well, I mean, he
which
is
kind of comes across.
does kind of work. I mean, who wouldn't be an awkward chicken in front of Rosamund Pike?
2003-year-old Rosamund Pike, gorgeous. Oh my god.
I would say split the difference between that and Gone Girl, and oh, sign
Yeah,
me up,
but Gone
dude.
Girl would like kill you.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
So
Gone Girl's scary. She's
yeah, Gone
scary,
Girl
girl.
is scary. I could watch Gone Girl again.
I just watched it for the first time probably 2 or 3 months ago. Very good.
Oh really? Yes.
Definitely made
Da-
me just
Another very solid David Fincher.
uncomfortable. Like, oh,
Oh yeah.
I don't feel
Oh
good.
yeah. Like, and you come away from that movie like there's no good person in this entire movie. Like Ben Affleck, you're a shitty person.
No, I mean,
Rosamund Pike,
he's
you're a
well,
shitty person. Neil Patrick Harris, you're kind of a shitty person.
he's fucking dead, is what he is.
Well, yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
back to the
Back,
romantic episode. Jesus,
back to Pride and Prejudice. Well, that hey, Gone Girl's kind of a love story.
what do you think when you think of Mr. Wickham?
Yeah.
What's his name? Oh God, I just had it in my
The
brain.
Soldier,
No, it's Rupert Friend.
Rupert Friend.
Yeah. What do you think is the first movie because you saw him in? Is it this? Because
I
I was looking at
Are
his
we thinking about the same character?
probably, I don't know.
Which one was he?
He's the soldier that
Okay.
they start to chat with, and then he's like, "Oh, actually, I don't like Mr. Darcy. We used to be friends." And
Right,
then
right,
he
right, right,
realizes he stole a
right.
bunch of money.
And
That
there's
whole
a whole
thing.
backstory.
Yes.
That actor's name sounds more familiar than where I could place him because I'm sure I've seen him in something else, but I can't think of it right now.
Because I'm sure this probably came out first, but obviously I didn't see this, and I looked at him, and I was like, "Where do I know him from?" Because he was also in the French Dispatch, Asteroid City. He did all those shorts with Wes Anderson. He did The Death of Stalin, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
The Death of Stalin, that's what it is. Because I was saying I haven't seen Asteroid City or French Dispatch yet.
You should at some point. I would say it's worth it, dude.
I keep meaning to at the very least see French Dispatch. I've heard better things about that than Asteroid City.
Yeah, I feel like if so, maybe this is a separate conversation, but again, this is a podcast that includes lots of rambles. That's like our whole bit.
I mean,
So
it's in all of our descriptions.
let's ramble, dude. Let's ramble.
It's how we
So
sign off every episode.
French Dispatch is really 3 short movies in one. So if you look at each movie, each small movie as its own separate thing, I actually like it a lot.
Okay.
But together, I don't think it flows very well. Whereas Asteroid City is a story within a story. Like it's you can't separate them. They're all kind of mumbled together, and it feels even less cohesive.
Oh, geez.
But each layer itself is cool. It's just the layers together I don't find work very well. At least in French Dispatch, there's some sort of like path through them.
Okay. Well, I mean, actually, I heard some movie news that Wes Anderson's newest movie is
Mm-hmm.
called The Phoenician Scheme, something like that.
Yes. It landed with
And
Focus Feature.
yeah, and they're just now starting shooting it, I think, or
Mm-hmm.
they're distributing it or something like that.
Yeah, I think they said 2026.
Yes. It could be worse. You could be the third Spider-Verse movie and not come out to 2029.
Or Batman Part 2 and just keep getting delayed. Who knows?
I fully believe James Gunn is trying to cancel it.
We've talked about this before, and
Yes, we have.
yeah, but either way.
So I would say that there is. So they used almost no ADR on this, and that's fine sometimes. But I would recommend putting the subtitles on for this because there's a lot of like very fast, hushed voices in some parts, and you miss some of the dialogue. But I would just say put on subtitles. My compulsory note of I love the music in this. Dario Marinelli is one of my absolute favorite composers. Pretty much love everything he's done, especially all of the Joe Wright stuff. Uh, it's just super pretty music with a really dominating piano bit. I absolutely love it.
All right, we're thinking Keira Knightley, Hayden,
Okay,
and I want you to think of her in this,
right,
Pirates of the Caribbean,
sure,
and let's say Love Actually.
okay. Wasn't she super young in Love Actually? I think it came before this,
I don't know. It was after. It was like
or
2006 or something like
I don't
that.
know,
I don't know.
all around the same time.
Okay, so you got to sleep with one, you got to marry one, and you got to kill one.
Um,
Because this is a romantic episode. We got to make this a little spicy.
Okay, with the greatest respect to Keira Knightley, um, big fan of your acting, genuinely. I okay, so depending on which one I choose, do I then have to live in that time period? Like, if I say I want to marry Elizabeth Swann, do I then have to live in pirate
As a
times?
pirate,
Or like,
pirates are in.
if okay, I know it's a line from Scott Pilgrim. Um,
Thank you, thank you.
yes, yes. Or like, if I pick you know, um, what's her fucking name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Bennet.
Mm-hmm.
There's two Elizabeth characters. Do I then have to live, in the Pride and Prejudice time?
I would say interpret the question however you want to interpret it. Just answer, Hayden.
Okay.
Like,
Um,
say you pluck her out of that movie and she's standing next to you. What are you gonna do?
I would,
Like, who you killing? Who you
I would,
banging?
I would kill Love Actually,
I don't remember. Yeah,
Keira
wasn't she
Knightley.
like?
I mean, genuinely, just because I that's the one that I had the least amount of memory of, and I
I don't
don't
remember
feel
much
as
about it.
bad about her dying. I would
Didn't she have like
marry.
almost an affair with the guy from The Walking Dead in that movie?
Yes,
I see. I put that movie on my watch list because I'm like, I don't remember much of anything about that movie.
yes. I would marry probably Pride and Prejudice
Mm-hmm.
Keira Knightley,
Agreed.
just because
Agreed.
I I I would also be someone who would like to, you know, live in a big book filled house and would not feel comfortable at parties in the same way as that character doesn't. And then
And she's also got the right amount of banter. Like,
absolutely, and then probably have sex with Pirates of the Caribbean Keira Knightley, just because Elizabeth Swann is crazy and kind of wild and all over the place, and not
could
someone
be
I would want
fun.
to spend their and right, like not someone I would want to spend the rest of my life with, but fun for an evening, sure.
Okay. Just I know. Just a random little question for you. Okay. Anything else for Pride and Prejudice?
I do
Speak
actually.
now or forever hold your peace.
So just some things that I like off the top of my head. I like that Darcy's character essentially comes down to him not knowing how to function in society. Like there's a whole bit where at the very first ball she walks up and she's like, "Oh, do you dance, Mr. Darcy?" And his first thought was, "Oh, she's asking me if I like to dance, not she's asking me to dance. I should just answer truthfully. No, I don't like to dance." And then he just kind of, dare I say it, autistically looks around confused and she walks off. I love that his character is essentially that he doesn't understand that he is making himself look like a jackass. The costuming this is really nice, and I like that everyone gets dirty, especially the long flowy dresses that all of the Bennett sisters wear. You can see there's mud pretty much working its way up the hem of like the bottom. I think it's pretty realistic for them living on a farm, essentially. Um, but in reality, those are actually all very relaxed. Like, again, in the series version, they're all in like tight bonnets all the time. Darcy's in like three layered coats and he never undoes his buttons. In this version, to make it seem a little bit more modern and a little bit, more hip with the young kids in 2000 and something or other, everyone is a lot more like less constrained by their clothes. A small like fleeting thing that I liked was after the second ball at Darcy's place, everyone outside of Mary and Lizzie are super hungover, and Mary is oblivious as shit and just plonking away on the piano. Um, as I mentioned, I do kind of feel bad for Collins. He's not a bad dude. He's just really, really awkward. I think one of the more important like lines and conversations from the movie happens when Keira Knightley is sitting on that swing thing, and her sister walks up, Jenna Malone, and she's like, "Oh, I'm engaged to to Collins and yada yada yada. And she goes on saying, "Don't judge me. I'm nearly 27. I'm already a burden on my parents, and I'm scared. Don't dare judge me." I think it's good to get that point of view because you see everything from Lizzie's perspective of, oh, I'm only going to marry someone if I'm in love with them. No, it is entirely also valid, especially in that day and age, to marry someone for like security. And I think
Well, I feel like they
it's
married more for that reason than almost any other at the time.
absolutely, but to make sure that Lizzie understands that because she goes through a lot of the movie definitely sticking to the, oh, no man is ever going to be good enough for me. So I think it is good for her character to have that happen. I like that Lady Catherine DeBow, Judy Dench, um, her character.
Bitch.
Well, but that's the point. Like she's
Well,
supposed to
yes.
like
Well, she represents
embody
of a
all of the
different.
social ills.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, she's a giant bitch, but she's there to be a physical embodiment of all of the social contracts and oh, you're not a good enough family and you're poor and you can't be seen talking to my cousin and yada yada yada. I like that it's not just implicitly implied constantly. You literally have a bitchy old lady in a tight fancy dress telling everyone, how dare you be beneath me. I think it is maybe in your face a lot, but I'm glad that that's a character. Um, you know, to go back again to Darcy saying, oh, I don't like to dance, and then she walks away confused. Another, kind of example of that, one thought train mentality of not thinking about how he sounds is his first proposal to her. Um, literally goes, "You are poor and plain and beneath me in every possible way, but I am willing to overlook your innumerable flaws and take you as my wife regardless." Like, brother, do you have rocks for brains? Why in the world would you say that?
When you speak from emotion and not from logic, you can say a lot of wrong things.
I yes, and I
And
guess so.
I should also say that, like, standing in front of someone talking about like these kind of subjects is
Oh,
incredibly hard.
oh,
Like,
terrifying.
well, yes, it's like it's scary.
Yes.
It's all the possible emotions. Like, again, I think we are, because it's the a Valentine's Day episode, but like I feel like everyone is, but not everyone, but most people have had some sort of like iteration of something like this.
Oh
If they're
yeah, yeah,
so, like, I get it. It
yeah.
was a.
I
I mean,
mean,
it's.
there's even an iteration of that in our next movie.
Yes. No. Okay.
I mean, kind
Yes.
of.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Um, there's a small scene I like here towards the end of my list. Here is that when Darcy does finally realize all of the foot and mouth that he's done, he's trying to fix his problems. Him and Bingley come back to the Bennett's house to make a second proposal to Rosamund Pike. Um, and I like the far away shot of them like role playing the proposal to try and keep it on script to make sure it goes correctly. It's nice to see both of those characters kind of like act in an unserious way because you can see them joking and laughing and it was just refreshing to see those two characters do that after being pretty uptight for lots of social reasons for the whole movie. And now that I've rambled for the majority of that section, I am done. I am done with my list.
I figured you'd have more to say than me. That's fine. Okay. Uh. So yeah, I'd say a very solid 4 out of 5. Uh. I am
Yeah,
glad I saw
same.
it. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Well, we're going to give
And
you some
yep.
elevator music to buffer, and then we're going to shift you right back into our second movie here in just a moment. Be right back, folks.
And welcome back, folks, from our brief hiatus, intermission, whatever you want to call it. We previously just spent the last 35, 40 minutes or so talking about Pride and Prejudice, which was Hayden's pick for our special feature for Valentine's Day / romance centric movies.
We hope you enjoyed the intermission. We went out to the lobby and got some concessions, and we're right back in. Duncan, what is our second movie? That is something you suggested.
I would not say this is inherently my favorite like romantic movie, but
Oh,
I
that's
think
fine.
it's a very good like comfort romance watch for me at least. I've seen this several times. Uh this is When Harry Met Sally, and if you want to start with some fast facts, let's get into it.
Let's start with some fast facts. I'd also just say that much like how I had seen Pride and Prejudice many, many times, and I would also say it's kind of a comfort movie of mine, Duncan hadn't seen it. The inverse is true here. Duncan has seen this a couple times, and this was my first time through. Our fast film facts here is that this is obviously When Harry Met Sally. This is released in 1989, directed by Rob Reiner, who is prolific all over the place, and some of his better projects include The Princess Bride, Misery, Stand By Me, This Is Spinal Tap, and A Few Good Men. Written by Nora Ephron. I didn't look up to see what else she had done, but I'm sure Google awaits you all. Music here is by Mark Shaman. Uh, I didn't think to look up what else he had done, but I know his name from also doing the music for the recent Mary Poppins revival with Emily Blunt. So he's very talented. Cinematography here is by Barry Sonnenfeld, and if that name sounds familiar to anyone else who likes movies, you would actually know him more as a director. He did all three Men in Black movies, both the Addams Family movies, Get Shorty, and Wild Wild West. This stars Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan, Carrie Fisher, Bruno Kirby, and Stephen Ford. There is really only 5 people on the cast.
And while there is only 5 people, I mean, it's
I
really
mean,
only about 2 of them.
in many ways, yes. I mean, they are in the title. This was also nominated for an Oscar, Duncan. What do you believe it was?
Um, Gosh, I hope it's costuming because so many of those fits are fucking fire,
No,
dude. Oh
it's
my
not.
god,
I trust me. I know. I see you wearing a lot of like cable knit sweaters, like frickin' Billy Crystal wears
dude!
the
There are
entire
there are
movie.
like 6 different times in my notes where I'm like, oh, did you check out that sweater? Did you see that
I
button up?
know. I
Check out those
know.
jeans, dude. Hell yeah.
I have that written down a couple times as well, but no, it is not costuming.
Okay, I don't think it's music.
Yeah, there is not a whole. I mean, there is music, but it's not that prevalent.
No, and it's not. I don't think
It's
it's not
it's fairly
soundtracky
incidental.
music. Yeah. I don't know.
This got nominated for Best Original Screenplay,
Oh, okay.
but lost very understandably to Dead Poet Society.
I mean, the weird part is in my brain,
That
like
is such a
Dead.
fucking crushing movie. Oh my
Well, it's
god.
it's fantastic,
I
but
mean,
in my
it's
brain,
awesome, but like Jesus.
especially of the era where it's shot, who's in it, like Dead Poet Society, Goodwill Hunting, and this, they all have this kind of folly, New Yorky, Boston feel to all of them.
100%.
And I grouped it because again they're all of the same era, but I grouped them together, and I love all of them. So if you've seen one, you will love probably the other two, is what I'm saying.
Um, I would say the other two are definitely deal with more serious subject matter. Um,
Well, yes, and
so
well, I mean yes, but like
I mean, I
there is
mean,
some.
this is fairly solidly in the rom com era. The other ones are there are comedic elements, but there is a serious undertone to pretty much everything.
Sure, sure.
Well, did we lead with ratings last time?
We led with the rating. So, what did you think of this, Hayden? First time.
For my first one, I mean, it was like a 3 out of 5. It was fine. I I
Okay,
I I, I enjoyed it. I know that it has like a huge cult following behind it, and it didn't land that way for me. I didn't dislike it, but it was fine.
that's fair. Like, I get. I would be pretty bummed if you were below that, but I get
No,
being there.
I
I,
mean,
I
It's
anyone's
not
like,
bad. I just
no,
didn't
no,
love
no,
it.
no,
That's all.
that's what I'm saying. Like, if anyone was like, oh, it's a 1 out of 5, I'd be like, shut your fucking mouth. But
I think if someone said that, they probably watched it on mute.
but also like, which again, yeah, that's probably what we'll talk about the banter and the conversation. But I also understand on the other side of the spectrum, like if someone's like, oh, this is the perfect movie, I'm like, you need to see more movies because there are objectively better movies out there.
I mean, granted, I'm not like a big rom-com person, so maybe I'm not the best person to ask that. I'm much more. I like my solidly just romance movies like Pride and Prejudice. I think I am more likely to choose something like that.
To start, I guess I would say even like the opening font. I don't know. It's a good font, dude.
It
It's the
it
little things. It's the good
like
font.
it had 90s character, and I don't know how else to describe it. Like I think to compare it to something like Friends would be an insult, obviously, but like they feel the same way, I guess. I don't
It's
know.
not what I it made me think of. It's not Friends, but it's 90s New York, and
Yes,
it's very much New York because it also makes me think of like Home Alone 2. Actually,
I have that written down. I'm like, this feels like it takes place in that same universe almost.
it probably could, to be honest. Like you could see like
Or
Kieran
like
Macaulay Culkin running around behind them or something as they walk down the
right
street.
or
I think it's both 90s and very much New York is throughout this movie. Yes, it's the story is about Harry and Sally, but so much of it is almost centered around their environment that they choose to shoot this in. Like it feels like New York is its own character.
there's almost no interior camera work. They're outside all the time,
Well,
which is
it's not
great.
just out. It's outside. It's at museums. It's at a coffee shop. But it just again
Exactly.
it
I
feels
think
it's all in. A, it's interesting. B, it feels like they just snuck over. Like, oh, we don't have permits. We're just going to quickly shoot this. It feels like it was not like a setup scene. It just feels like, oh, you two
yeah.
just go walk over there, kind of
Well,
thing.
something that I really liked about this is that they will bookend time periods by flashing to uh,
Mm-hmm.
a random couple doing
Which I
like an
like that a
interview.
lot.
Like that endeared me to this movie so much, and I
Right?
almost
It's
don't
really good.
want to be told if they're actors or not. It is so much more effective for me if they just interviewed old married couples, because like that's so much more fun, and I think it definitely helps break up
Mm-hmm.
the time jumps, because I feel like it would be really jarring if they didn't do
Well, it's not just that, but it makes me think of it makes me actually think of Interstellar when they interview real
that.
Dust Bowl survivors,
Kinda.
and this is so much more positive. And yes, I
Yes.
like Jesus Christ. Uh, and this is earlier on when it's they're at the diner. I'm trying to do this in like chronological order of the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, I have mine starting, in the freaking 70s. So
which it just seems weird that this starts in the 70s, but it does. Her ordering though, like as a servant, like as someone who for
I
part of my life
drove
is,
me up the
oh my
fucking wall.
god. I understand knowing what you want and asking for it. I actually this is something I talked to someone
Sure.
recently about, like, oh, I'm starting to be comfortable with, like, oh, if I don't want this on this sandwich, I will ask for it off. Or like instead of just saying, oh, it's fine, I'll pick it off, I'll just not ask for it, kind of thing. So I get it,
Yes, that's what she should be doing. But
but
if I was
holy shit,
Harry
dude.
in any of those situations, I would be having like a blood vessel pumping out on the side of my forehead. That would drive me up a wall.
Well, I love that he like for the first like 20 minutes of the movie, he just watches her like a animal in a zoo, like
Kinda,
fascinated. Like, what the
kinda.
fuck am I watching?
I did question the logic. Like, I mean, granted, this is, it's we're not watching a super serious movie. And that's kind of what I resigned to. Like, you can't apply logic to everything that happens. That's fine.
Sure.
But I questioned the logic of taking a 16-hour drive with someone you don't know. Like,
Well, not everyone had a
that,
car.
well, I mean, right?
If that
I
was your only, I mean, if that
understand
was your
that.
option to get home, I would say yes, I'd take that,
I
especially
mean,
if
I
it's a
mean,
friend of your girlfriend.
but yeah, like I don't. That's how you end up on a murder podcast. Just
This is
that
dude, this is the
that's
late
kind of
70s.
crazy. That's
Late
kind of
70s.
crazy.
Well, that's when murder was like serial killers and stuff were high. Was anyway. I definitely did not read into that at all.
Well, I got over misgivings like that pretty quickly because it's not that kind of a movie, obviously. Just like I initially had a hard time believing someone who is undeniably as attractive as Meg Ryan falling in love with someone who looks like Billy Crystal.
Which I do kind of get.
But his personality
His personality is so
wins out over
yeah.
that because like with the greatest respect to Billy Crystal, dude kind of looks like a fish that got turned into a human. Like he he's an odd looking man, and Meg Ryan, especially in '89, very beautiful woman.
So again, going in chronological order, this is their conversation in the car when he's trying to quote unquote get with her.
When he's freaking spitting peach or not peach pits, grape
Yes.
pits all over the place, like a freaking homeless guy.
You say that, but there's so many points in this movie where I'm like, dude, I am Harry. Like I totally get his position on a lot of stuff.
I mean, as the movie went on, yes, I just as someone who sees themselves in the social awkwardness of Mr. Darcy from the last movie, I couldn't imagine spitting in some random stranger's car. That oh
Well, no, I
mortified me.
wouldn't either, but I would say I lean more towards him than Mr. Darcy by a lot.
That's fair. I mean,
Um,
just
but his
in
whole
real life,
bit,
we are very different people.
what? Yes, yes, his whole bit on, do you think men and women can be friends? What are your thoughts?
I have a whole paragraph. What are your thoughts?
I literally just wrote the question.
I think they can very much so.
I agree.
Two of my oldest friends are
I
women
know
I
that. Yes,
knew from high
yes,
school. Like,
yes.
and and with great respect to them, I think they are both attractive people. I've never been attracted to them. I think it is maybe true in many other circumstances, but I think that no, in real life, it is entirely possible to be friends with women and not want to bang them.
A, I agree, but B, I think it's also, I think it's like what I don't know the right.
If I was friends with 1989 Meg Ryan, that would be a different answer.
Well, sure, but because I also have several friends who uh
Oh yeah.
like I've got a wedding coming up in a couple months where like I've known the bride since like first
Sure,
grade.
cool.
Um, but like just generally speaking, I still think it's a totally like realistic to be friends with another like with someone of the opposite gender. But also you can still be friends with someone even if you find them attractive. You can still just be friends. I I, I don't think it has to be like, oh, friends or only trying to bang them. I can look at someone and say, oh, they are attractive, but I can still also be their friend. Like there doesn't have to be the ulterior motive of trying to sleep with them is what I'm saying. Does that
Sure.
make sense?
Yeah. And I mean, and to Billy Crystal slash Harry's credit, a lot of the movie he does stick to that,
Which again, that's why again throughout the movie I'm like, oh, dude, Harry, my guy.
which I do kind of have to commend him on that a little bit.
And this is throughout the movie. Their banter is I mean, that's the whole reason you watch this is basically just their banter and their conversations because that's mostly just the whole movie is just them talking to each other in different places,
Yes.
which I love. That's why I liked
Um.
Before Sunset and Sunrise and Midnight. There's so many times where he fully commits to the bit of like, oh, I can say anything to her and be totally
Oh
fine
yeah.
with it because he
Yes.
sees her as a friend.
Hmm.
Like there's so many points where he says something I'm like,
I
oh
mean,
shit, dude, like he is
I mean,
honest.
and it's any. I mean, if anything, in the story, she comes on to him eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think some of the, I don't know if this was like all that funny to me. I don't know if I had a laugh out loud moment, but you know that's according to personal taste. It's not a knock against the movie. There were definitely some chuckles for me. I like the opening bit where you have Billy Crystal and his friend talking about his divorce in a very serious way, while also doing the Mexican
Oh,
wave at a
oh,
football game.
so
That
good,
is
dude. It's
that is a
fantastic.
th- that is that is some peak comedic writing right there.
Isn't that
That's
so good?
Great.
No,
That
that's
is
definitely worth
great.
a very good chuckle for sure. Like I don't think this is the kind of movie to get like big laughs, like laugh out loud, but
No.
it's tons of like very intelligent
There's
chuckles.
a ton of, like, just clever writing all over the place.
Starting off with the costuming, just to start.
Go right ahead. Talk about your sweaters.
Okay, not even no, not the sweaters. This is after the first like interview where they fast forward time after they first met. They're at the airport. She's with her new guy. He like re-meets her and remembers
Yes.
her.
Yes.
She's got this like droopy bow tie thing going on. It's
Well,
fucking awful, dude. It's it's
at that point in the time, it was
it's uggo. It's
1982.
yuck. Well, it's not like a like women's like suit, but it just it wasn't like it almost looked like a someone like wilted a flower and just stuck it on her lapel.
It's possibly not ideal.
But did you also I don't think it's the same place, but it could be shot for shot the same. From there, I think it's they meet at the airport, and then it's uh
They
her
talk
at
on the plane for a little bit.
mm-hmm. No, but
Um,
after the plane, it's cutting to her with her girlfriends at the cafe outside talking about how they're always single, and then she just says, "Oh, her and Joe broke up,"
yep.
that kind of one.
hmm
Do you
It's directly
recognize?
after. It is directly after the the fucking Mexican wave scene.
Yes, yes. Did you recognize the cafe they were at? Like what it? Again, I don't think it is
No,
the exact same, but it kind of could have been shot for shot the same place.
not really.
Think of Man from Uncle.
Oh, is it at the ending of at Man from Uncle?
No, no. So if you remember towards the beginning when he first meets, uh, the Russians and the Americans meet together to agree to work together. They're meeting at like an outdoor cafe outside of the bathrooms that they get in a fight in.
Yes, it's a good
If
scene.
you, it's a good scene, but when they actually sit down to have a conversation, when he references when Henry Cavill mentions all the bad shit about Army Hammer's parents,
hmm
if you put that
Oh, you're right.
scene,
It
it's
has the same
almost
backdrop.
identical. Yes, it's the same actor. So again, I don't think it's the same place, but the whole
I
time I
mean,
was like,
I would
this
buy
looks
it.
so similar.
I think to save money on not shooting in Italy, I would buy it.
But also, speaking of when they do the wave and he's talking about getting divorced,
hmm
uh, again, this is exactly what I wrote. Harry with a beard equals uggo.
It, it it doesn't help his face. No,
Granted, I don't even know if like even without it, I again he's not a like conventionally attractive man, but
no.
it wasn't a great
I
look
mean,
for him.
he's a funny comedian, but he's not a conventionally attractive man. Correct.
But I do think he makes up with it with all these smart outfit choices, like the amount of like a yeah sweaters,
He has a
b
lot of
like
nice tweed.
yes, I was about to say tweed and like wool overcoat and like different suit
hmm
jackets, sport jackets, and
Absolutely.
it is definitely of the time of the late '80s, early '90s of
I
like,
mean, I don't know if I could pull off any of it, but it looked great on him.
dude. Again, I was looking at this, I was like, dude, I might want to start wearing this shit, but like where they'd wear like sweaters, then a sports jacket, but then with jeans and like
Yeah,
athletic shoes. Like, dude, it just looked like the drip, as the kids say. Fucking iconic. Just saying.
we are down with the kids, yo.
And to
Forget I
pair
said that.
this, to Pride and Prejudice, when they first actually start, I guess, talking to each other, uh, their banter with each other is just like, uh, again, I feel like you can tell when a movie does romance right, it's more in the conversation than anything else. That's why like the
hmm
banter between Elizabeth and Mr. Dauncey when they're arguing, or as like when these two are just having a conversation, even if it is arguing or not, or if they're talking about
Oh, I mean,
nothingness again.
I think some of the best dialogue between them is the split screen cutaways of them on the phone talking to each other. Like that's
Oh
some of the
yeah.
best dialogue in the movie. And also, I love that camera trick. That's a nice looking thing, and they
Yeah,
do
even
it
especially
twice.
for the time. Yeah.
I mean, for '89, yeah,
And
kind of
there's
reminded me of when they did it in 500 Days of Summer.
yes. Yes. Well, and again because I just it's a comfort show that I put on whenever I'm, like, doing something and I don't really need to watch. They actually do it a lot in Seinfeld, so
Yeah, oh
I
yeah.
think it's just of the era, but that was something they did. I
Hmm.
love that this movie obviously, Pride and Prejudice is a little bit more, like, dramatic and serious about it, but this, again, is a romantic comedy, but there's several points in this movie where they do show, like, the rough bits of love where, "Oh, you're getting divorced," or, "Oh,"
Some
like
of it.
yeah, no, it's not the whole movie, but there are little sprinkles here and there, little bits,
Hmm.
which I'm glad that it's not in it all the time, but I'm glad that there's at least like the whole scene. I'll reference this a little bit later in my notes, but like when he sees his ex-wife at the
Oh, and it has a
sharper image,
meltdown
oh,
in
dude,
the store.
no, but like like that was gut punch. That I saw, like you could see like the color drain from him. Like he's
Yeah.
just like, oh fuck.
I'm actually surprised they didn't try to do a bit with him holding the microphone and ended up like blasting his comments throughout the whole store. I think
I
I
thought
was
that would have
almost
been louder
expecting
too.
them to
Yeah.
do it.
Oh,
Which I
I
mean,
agree.
I'm kind of glad that it was just a normal conversation, but like kind of thought they would do that. It was weird to see Carrie Fisher in this.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I mean,
Well,
not to shock anyone, but
I
I'm
like
so
her.
used to seeing her in Star Wars. It was
Well,
weird to see
sure,
her
sure.
not in space.
But I also like that basically the entire movie is her until it towards the end is in like she's pining over a guy that's married that they never show. She's just like a side character. And again, every
Yes.
time they jump time, she's still trying to get him. And then
Well, no, and then
eventually,
and then and then
well, yes,
later she ends
yes,
up
yes, yes.
marrying Mustachio Guy.
Which he looks like the most generic, like mustachioed, like everyman.
Like if you asked me to, or like if you asked an AI algorithm to generate me a picture of a man in who lives in New York in the 90s who likes football, that's what he would look like. Like I half expect him to
Yeah,
pull out a hot
probably.
dog at any point and start munching away.
At some point around here, I wrote just New York because again, there's I think it's when they're cutting to all the different times they're walking around and talking. But
Oh yeah.
this movie, I wonder if how if they got any kind of like funds or anything from like the state, like the either the state of New York or the city of New York City for like basically this is kind of a commercial for the city itself with how much they show of like very famous bits of the city.
Probably.
It's just something I
I mean,
noticed.
yeah, probably.
And then this was like this was on the screen for about 2 seconds and I had to rewind it twice to make sure I actually saw what the right thing, but there is one of those little like water
Oh,
bird
the little
dipper things.
drinking bird thing that shows up in Alien.
Yes, did you see what kind of it like what was on the bird though?
Uh, Not really. No.
It is a Orthodox Jew water pecker. If you look, it's got the little hat and it's got the little curly hair on each side. Like
Okay.
very specific. I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, I mean, sure, makes sense. It's Billy Crystal. The man is Jewish.
Sure, sure. Speaking of him, his apartment is awesome. And I know it's a movie, but again, I'm like, those are like when I think of like, oh, I want to live in like a city. That's what I think of. I want
See,
that, or like yeah, that's what I think of.
I liked his apartment. I thought that Meg Ryan's character's
Hers is
apartment is
horrendous.
ugly as hell,
Oh no,
especially
dude,
that like striped yellow wallpaper. Ugh, puking, just
this is where
awful.
this is where you and I, Hayden, are definitely related because the whole scene where he's comforting her later. I mean, we'll talk about it, but later on when he's
Oh,
comforting her, the amount of different patterns and colors and materials,
I
I
could not focus on them. Like,
I was like almost screaming. I was like, dude, what the fuck am I watching? Like, who agreed that this was what she would have wanted? But someone who like likes things such a certain way, I feel like this is chaos for
right?
her.
Like that didn't make any sense to me. Like her apartment kind of reminds me of mine in the way that it's not organized and in perhaps the way that someone who likes to get into the
Maybe.
minutia of everything like her character does, like that just doesn't make any sense.
But yes, I'm very much glad that at least we both are like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, not great. I did like how many different hats she had throughout the movie. Like she has,
Well, yeah, her thing was
um,
hats, his thing was sweaters and jackets.
I don't know. I mean, not to be like, oh, you don't see hats on women, but like, I don't know. When I think of
No, I get it. I
rom-coms, they
definitely
don't
agree.
tend to
Put a hat on him.
take
Yeah,
a
you're right.
yeah, I don't know. It added to make her character look more unique
Well, A,
instead of
looked more
being
unique, but also I think it actually made sense for this was like fall and winter time in New York. It's gonna be cold as shit.
yes, yeah. And that's actually something that they don't show in Pride and Prejudice, despite it taking place
Yeah,
over the
wouldn't
course of
that
like
place be
2
like
years.
cold as fuck in
Well, I
Britain?
mean, they show some cold scenes, but like
Eh,
they completely don't show any snow. They completely skip over Christmas. And maybe that's not something that happened in the book, but I always think it's odd that for a movie that is so adamant on showing you the surroundings and things like that, they never bring up, a Christmas time in the same way that like Little Women does.
sure, sure. The and what I also love about his apartment is the huge wide open space where they're rolling out that rug, the like very iconic scene where they're both squatting
I
next to it.
really like his giant wrought iron windows.
That's what I was about to say. Was his windows are fucking awesome, dude. A
I mean,
just yeah, everything about it is great.
I
Um,
mean, it might be a bitch to heat, but it does look very cool.
but what they're talking about during that scene where he actually tries to go out and and meet someone, and the whole
Yeah,
time, oh, he's thinking about his ex-wife, and he's doesn't miss her, but he misses the idea of her. I was like, oh,
yeah,
brother, dude,
yeah.
holy shit, dude. That's
No,
why,
trust me, I
again,
get it.
this is a rom-com and it's a light movie, but like I said, like there are little sprinkles of moments where like, oh, this is like the rough bits of like the ups and the downs until you kind of find that either that person or like discover who you are as a person, like getting comfortable being alone or whatever that might be. Like it shows like, oh, those moments of, oh, this one little thing makes me think of this person, or oh, I can't
Sure.
listen to this song anymore because of this person or whatever.
I mean, not that I was glad to finally see Sally break down over her ex finally, but like I'm kind of glad we did because
I'm
I
glad,
I'm
but
I'm with Harry on that. Like he is annoyed that she doesn't act like she cares about breaking up with a long term boyfriend for a number of years. Like, yeah, I maybe I shouldn't be like glad that she is depressed and sad, but I'm glad that that character actually decided to show it.
yeah, everyone. I feel like something I've at least personally learned, but like everyone's timeline for how they deal with like
Sure.
guilt or stress or pain or remorse or anything like that is everyone's gonna be different. So like some people, it's like, oh, it's it's a day and they're good, it's a week and they're good, or it's like, oh, it's 2 years down the line and then they're like, oh, I still am like dealing with fallout of that. So
Yeah.
yes, I'm glad
Uh,
that maybe it took some time, but she did do that. I don't know if you knew this, but the bit where they're at, I think it's the museum, wherever, the one with like the big skylight glass wall. I think
yes.
it's a museum.
Some nice camera work there,
A,
actually.
nice camera work, and B, the whole uh, bit where he's talking about the pecan pie,
Yeah,
all improv.
I believe it.
That was between takes. They were like, oh, we just like we're resetting and stuff. Can you guys just talk for a couple minutes? And he's like, no, we're just gonna do this bit. And so it's basically, if you like watch the scene really closely, she doesn't really know what's going on. She's just kind of
Oh yeah,
following. She's just
she
following
looked
him.
confused,
Yeah, which again, it felt so.
but that
It
feels
felt
like
real. It
I
felt
was like,
organic.
well, exactly, and I think that that's how a normal person would react if someone's like, "Hey,
Like,
look, I
what the
want to
fuck?
continue this conversation, but you have to talk like a muppet."
But again, that's the charisma that is his personality versus his physicality is
Yeah,
insane, dude. Like,
and I like that they didn't try to make him like like they never apple boxed him like the way they do Tom Cruise. They are fine with him being a little bit shorter in this, and I think that helps because it makes it seem like that character is leaning more into his personality, maybe even subconsciously to try and overcompensate for that.
I think I've
Um,
learned.
did you
Uh,
catch
oh, go ahead.
Billy Crystal very briefly reading Misery?
Mm-mm.
There's a shot in his apartment where he's reading Misery, and it's just a nice nod because that's one of Rob Reiner's other movies,
Huh. That is a nice little
which
nod.
completely different tone
Sure.
and very good, but completely different. But still, I'm just like, oh, hey, look, that's funny.
I think it's when they're up in his. Maybe they're on the phone. I can't. No, wait. I think it's when they're in his apartment. Um, I think I've realized that like he's got the obviously the good the amazing personality, but not overly attractive. I think I've like I had this like look in the mirror moment of like, oh, I'm not unattractive, but I don't have like like I'm just like this dude. I'm just this guy.
I mean,
Like I'm just generic guy. Like I feel like if you plop me in a group, I'm just like, hello, I am guy. I'm size medium. I am
I
like generic boy. Hello.
think not to throw myself under the bus. I am. I mean,
And again, I'm not saying
I
trying to
am
make this be
without.
a whole thing. I'm just like,
No, 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 and I have full like. I am fully aware that I am perhaps not as handsome as you, and that's okay.
no, that's the
I'm
same. I'm not handsome, is what I'm saying.
well, no, no, but what I'm saying is like that's why I initially had a hard time buying Billy Crystal, you know, getting with
Oh, with
Meg
Meg Ryan,
Ryan,
sure.
perhaps, because as someone who might be more of a Billy Crystal than perhaps you, I was like, this doesn't happen in reality. You don't get the Meg Ryans of the world. But the movie did win me over, obviously.
Sure. And like there has been several times where I will like be in public and I see a couple that clearly does not make sense. And I'm like, okay, but I haven't also met the person, so I'm sure the
That's
whole like,
fair.
oh, but their personality, yeah, it might actually be that, to be honest.
Maybe.
The
Um,
horrible wheel glass table that the generic New York mustache man, hey, it's a terrible table. I do agree, it's not a good table.
I might disagree with you on that.
I could definitely
I
see you
think,
liking it.
well, okay. I think it's fine if it's in like outside, like if some
Yes,
future house I have, if I have like an outdoor deck area, or
sure.
if I have
I
like
would
a
put that
barn
there.
or something, I
Sure.
wouldn't put it in my living room.
Yeah, especially when you put it around everything else that's in that house, it makes no fucking sense. But
Hmm.
again, I love that it shows like the real like actual conversation between new husband and new wife like talking about furniture, but then there's the subplot of Harry being stressed the fuck out from just seeing his ex-wife.
Yeah, yeah,
I can't remember where I saw. I think it might have been a podcast or something else that I was listening to recently. But like, someone said, "Oh, if someone responds to you in like a negative fashion with anything over like a five, like if it's 1 through 10, and they're at like obviously more than a five, like he was obviously very passionate that the table was fucking awful, and then goes into this whole tirade. It's
yeah,
usually not about that thing because again, his was not about the actual table."
yeah. Could be.
It was a nice little note. I'm like, okay, it gives me more like patience and understanding if someone is a lot more emotional about something. A lot of times it's not about that actual little slight of their day. Might be something bigger to think about. That's all.
Could be. Could be. We already talked about Meg Ryan's wallpaper.
Yeah, that is literally my next note. Is her apartment is too many patterns equals Uggo. I've been
It
using
is.
Uggo a lot this episode, but I'm fine with it.
It's fine. So there's a scene in this which I think everyone has either heard of or seen, whether you've seen the movie before or not, and it's Meg Ryan, you know, faking her orgasm in the diner.
Of course,
Like
a
I just
classic.
it's not funny. And maybe that's just me, but like even when I've seen it in isolation, even when I've seen it now that I've seen the whole movie, it's not that funny.
Again, I think I would. There's probably a little chuckle to it, but A, of the time, B, you are not the target audience for it. Like I bet if you were
Truly,
if you were a woman who could definitely relate to that, come on.
I mean, fair enough. I just like I think because I'd seen it so many times now in isolation, having seen it now, I'm just like, yep, this is this. All right,
Sure.
let's go. Move on.
What I did notice that they used a word that has sense again, it's just it's interesting how phrases and like the societal vernacular, like the words that what's the right word? Like slang just changes over time, but
Vernacular?
it's still vernacular. Uh, so they use transition person versus rebound that we would
Oh,
probably say now.
yeah, kinda.
Or like after
I mean,
after spoiler alert, but again, this was out for almost 40 years ago. Uh,
almost.
they sleep together, and then when they both go to call their friends and then talk to them later on, he's talking uh, about him being a transition person for her or him, and I'm like, I feel like again, if you were talking to like someone young nowadays, they would obviously say rebound or a
Uh,
fling, a
they'd say
hookup.
situationship. I think rebound and fling are already kind of obsolete words. Like that sounds like something I would hear in my generation. I think people who are younger than me don't use that kind of slang anymore.
Well, I would say maybe more hookup because I feel like speaking from as being a young person who's had experience in this
I was just
situationship.
gonna let you completely write
Yeah, I
that
know. I was
out.
like, let me just dig my hole real quick. Jesus fucking Christ. Hey, we all have pasts that we all
That's
learn from.
fine.
It's fine. I've
It's
accepted
fine.
that I am glad that I'm at where I'm at. Uh, situationship involves time. It's not a one. It's usually not a not one. It's like you're doing this for a certain amount of time and you're hoping it's going to go somewhere, but it obviously from the get go, everyone is telling you that it's not because the person is clearly not into you the way that you're into them. That's a situationship.
Yeah,
Whereas
fair enough.
this is
Fair
a
enough.
hookup, but I don't know again if there's any more of a modern term for hookup besides one night stand.
If you fellow young people who obviously listen to our podcast would like to help us old geezers, we would appreciate it.
I'm trying, dude. I'm trying to think of the like logical outcome, but
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway,
I did think that if you were to release this today, who would you slot into essentially the four characters that there are in this?
well, I
And
would
I
I would
think
start backwards. I would start with who do you want to be the side characters that are like a good buddy, both man and female, but not like the main like who's a good buddy?
Nick from New Girl,
Yeah,
he
sure.
I Jake Johnson is his name. I think
Yes,
he
that's
would
Jake
be
Johnson.
a great buddy character. That is essentially who he plays in everything. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that works really well.
Sure.
Um, and then who would you slot in for, uh, you know, Carrie Fisher's character?
Carrie Fisher, I would put again, you want someone who's not going to steal the show from the main person, so you can't make them too much of a personality or too much of a physicality.
Right.
God, I don't know. That's because again, I feel like so many actors and actresses now are so much like more
It is
zhuzhed
hard
up.
to yeah, and I think that is kind of the difference. I think is that granted, Meg Ryan is as I've said a couple of times now, she's very attractive in this, but everyone else just kind of looks like normal everyday people. I don't know that you would be able to think of actors and actresses in the same way in the modern, era, if you will.
Let's see. I feel like I just need like a list of like C actors or B actors.
Okay, well, who would you put into the Harry and Sally roles?
Okay, you need someone with just again charisma or riz as the kids are saying because again you're making this modern day. Someone with a bunch of riz up in here. Am I right?
Because it's a hard question. Because like, do we also want to skew for someone who's in their late 30s so you could convincingly have them over a number of years, or do we want to go younger? It's hard to actually cast.
See, I feel like if you go younger, you're gonna get too pretty out of it though.
Yes, because then you'll get stuck into your Timothy Chalamets, which you don't want.
Exactly. Which again, they might be great actors, but that's not the
I
role you're
I
looking for
I
though.
don't know if he's a great comedic actor. I don't think I've seen him in
Oh
anything
no, no,
like
not
funny.
comedy at all.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like yeah, generally dramatically. Yeah. Anyway, okay. I need a
I think
list.
I'd
I
go
need a list.
Colin Jost.
Uh, he's, but dude, he's married to Scarlett
But he's
Johansson. Come on.
he's also kind of too handsome.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's too good looking.
Maybe Jay Basharl? No,
No,
he's no.
no.
If anything, actually, I think I would switch it. I would put Jake Johnson in the Harry role and put Jay Basharl in the Jake Johnson role.
I just Googled C-list celebrities. Let's see.
Okay.
I would, Meg Ryan. Let's replace her with the chick from Matrix Resurrections, or what else did she do? Oh,
I
she
never
was in
saw
Knives.
Resurrections.
She was in the second Knives Out. She's the Asian chick. I've always been a fan of her.
Oh,
I can't think of her
um,
name.
I can't think of her name either. But
What
yes,
is? I'm. It's
I think
me.
Donald Glover would be a good
Oh,
Harry.
I like Donald Glover, and I think but he's an attractive man.
Right, but
But
I
he
think
but he
the
does
I
have the personality, the charisma, 100%.
absolutely. I think he works.
I would be okay with that, to be honest. God, what is that chick's fucking name?
Google it, for fuck's
I'm
sake, man.
I'm googling.
This won't be in. It's fine.
How do you spell resurrection? There it is.
Just search Glass
What's her
Onion.
name? Jessica Henwick.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
She did Star Wars, Gray Man, Glass Onion, Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think she's
Okay,
like
so we still
attractive
need a
enough to be
Carrie
the main
Fisher.
character, but Carrie Fisher. Do you put Josh Gad as the backup man, because he's always like a good sidekick?
No, I think I'm still going Jake Johnson, but I think Josh Gad is not a bad pick. I think I would go.
There was also a time that I would have said Jonah Hill as the backup, but
Maybe
not anymore. I don't think so.
Chelsea Peretti from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Is that the
You
like
know who that
weird
is?
one?
That is such a bad description of anyone on that show, Duncan.
Oh no, it's the weird girl. Yes, it's the weird one.
Okay, but like she's not
As
like
Gina,
ugly.
yes. No, I
She
agree.
she's not ugly, and clearly she has some comedic chops on her. I think that'd be a good pick.
Yeah. I think that we could, you could make something out of that. I don't.
Sure.
Let me be as explicitly clear as I know all the studio heads are listening to this. Please do not remake this movie. Please come up with your own original ideas. Find something else to do. That's all I want to say.
I think in this day and age, this movie wouldn't be seen as very special anymore. I think there's a lot of romantic comedies to the point where people are tired of seeing them, and that's why they kind of went away.
I actually talked about this on my latest episode of Dunk's Movie Corner, where plug. Um, I feel like the popular genre of movies definitely comes in cycles. Like there was a time
Oh
where
yeah.
it was almost only rom-coms. Then there
I
was
mean,
like
before that, it was only westerns.
there's only westerns. There's the 80s where it was like bigger action movies. There's the age of animation. There's going to be an age of superheroes. I think we're past that age of superheroes.
I think now we're into the age of heavy biopics with things like The Brutalist and
Well,
A Complete Unknown and
sure.
Oppenheimer and things like that.
I just hope that era is short, because I'm already done with it, to be perfectly honest.
I'm
Eh,
not. I don't love biopics. I think they need to be earned.
and some of them are, which we'll talk about potentially soon. I'm going back to When Harry Met Sally. So throughout the movie, I'm like, dude, I am Harry. But then, no, because again, there's so many points of how he views the world and how he views romance that I
Yeah.
agree with. But then when he's comforting her and she's like, oh, I'm too structured, I'm too closed off. I was like, oh shit. Wait, am I Sally? Like,
No.
I've gotten so used to being alone and comfortable being by myself and I've got a structure, I've got a schedule that I keep to, I've got hobbies that I do that like there's no room for anything else. Oh my god.
Take it from me, who lives this Literally, you are not too comfortable being alone. If anything, that is me.
It's just I granted I am a very like what if especially if it's a movie, I'm pretty impressionable for whatever I'm watching. Like even if it's Fast and the Furious, I'm gonna want to go like race some fucking cars. Like whatever it is I'm watching, I'm gonna connect to it that way. But just
Yep,
again, I was like, oh shit, is this me?
that's fair. That's
Let's
fair.
see. We already referenced the phone split screen. Oh, his speaking of more outfits, back to the costume design, which I am shocked it did not get any kind of nomination for that, but his speed walking outfit, because I know speed walking was a rage at some point,
Yeah,
but
early 2000s as well as the 90s.
yes, and it definitely made me think of Malcolm in the Middle when Hal
I
gets
was
really into
just
speed
picturing
walking.
that.
Yes, and it's not to that degree, but it just there are some things that like I'm glad they didn't try to make this timeless. They are very clearly, oh, this is when this is happening. Because yes, it definitely sets it in that time, but it actually makes it feel again realer because it's not trying to be so ambiguous as to what the era is. Like this movie is very much a oh, this is when this movie happened kind of thing. That's all. His his whole leaving her like 30 voicemails being just basically a he even said he's like, "Oh, I'm just basically a schmuck on your voicemail right now." Like,
I do think that if you tried to make that today, it wouldn't be the good comedic device it was. Like, I think leaving someone voicemails on a cell phone, which, I mean, not to say that I don't use my phone to call, but I don't.
I mean, I do sometimes, it just depends and I feel again, I can only speak from prior experiences, not current experiences, but being on the phone with someone of a romantic endeavor obviously I think hits differently than having to call someone for work or whatever. So maybe that's
Yes.
where this is obviously different.
I mean, if you feel like
But
you're clocking in, if you're talking to someone that you're romantically interested in, that's a whole different problem.
so at the very end though, so again I would say spoiler, but this movie again was like 40 years ago. He decides, oh, you know, I've been a fool. I need to race and find her and tell her how I feel. And of course, it's New Year's Eve.
Hmm.
He did so I checked when they were filming this how old the actors actually were. Do you know the age difference in them, Hayden?
I didn't think to look.
He is 41 in this. She's
Yeah, is it going to be
27.
gross?
It's not like super horrendous, but it's a pretty good size gap. And that
Is it like
final
James Bond level of weirdness?
well again, 41 to 27. It's a good size. Either way, like that last scene
Yes.
where they're in New Year's and they finally kiss and they finally just start dancing. I'm like, oh, you can see like he's got wrinkles. Like he is looking not like
Hmm.
she still looks pretty spry. Obviously, she's 27. Either way, just that little like oof. I could you can see the age right there. Okay, but I also
Yeah,
again love that they cut the basically the end of the movie by putting them in the same interview. So again, I want to
it
believe
was a
all
nice
those
touch.
people. It was a nice touch. I want to believe all those people are real people that they just added their not real relationship in at the end. But I don't know.
I I mean, it is entirely possible that they aren't, but I'm not going to look.
That is roughly everything I had. Just quick little notes that I saw. Anything else that you want to talk about?
I ran out a little bit ago. I was figured you had more to talk about, so.
Sure. Um, if you were ever looking for fit inspiration, either watch the movie, but also like if you are in the modern era and you have a smartphone and you have Instagram, literally you could just search like when Harry met Sally fit or outfit, and there's like, dude, all the different combinations of like textures and materials and colors and casual with formal or formal with just ugh. If you're ever looking to get me anything for any kind of birthday, Christmas, hey,
Fair.
Valentine's Day, if that ever works out, if you're a fan of the podcast and you somehow capture me, uh, take note.
Um, I don't know that I would similarly want anything from Pride and Prejudice. I don't feel like it would look good on me, so I can't say the same.
kind of a sub thing, but I feel like there are no ones. I think a lot older. Yeah, like 1600s. Uh,
Well,
wait.
there was no electricity in cars. It was a couple years before.
Oh, I'm thinking of Nosferatu in my head.
Uh,
I don't know the time differences, but
Pride and Prejudice would have been older, I think.
there is a jacket that Christopher Nicholas Holt wears in Nosferatu. That's kind of like this, like sort of
Oh, is it the one
uh
that he wears to like the castle?
yes, dope
It's nice
jacket,
looking.
dude.
Yeah.
Fucking just again, I not that I would want most things from that era of Pride and Prejudice or Nosferatu or anything, but like it's a pretty dope jacket. Just saying.
Like I would like a Darcy fit, but I would want to
Ugh,
finish
when would
losing
you
weight
wear that?
first. I would want to finish losing weight first. I don't know. Like I would wear it on like a super fancy date or something. Like I would wear
I
it to
guess.
like a wedding or something. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I go to a Ren fair.
I'd like. I think I would put that on a to-do list of going to a Ren fair. I've never gone. I'd like to check it out.
Yeah, it could be fun. Well, do you want to add anything else into our Valentine's Day special before we sign off?
This will be coming out on Valentine's Day, so
Which is
that
Friday.
it's just Friday. And if you stumbled upon this and you want more, A, we've got a bunch of other episodes. But B, there's also going to be another episode, our regularly scheduled one of Oppenheimer, which will be on Sunday. So movies that you would want to like reference for like, oh, if you want a good like
Well, Valentine's Day
romance,
movies?
yeah.
Um, I don't know. I mean, as I mentioned in the episode, I'm not a huge rom-com person.
Well, they don't
I
have
mean,
to be rom coms. I'm just saying straight
I
rom.
I like me some period romance a lot, actually. It's one of my favorite genres. So I would also say, I mean, try the Mia Wasikowska version of Jane Eyre. Try Anna Karenina. Um, I don't
Okay.
know. I mean, I like me some old timey, very verbose romance movies. So probably something like that.
So basically, if you liked Pride and Prejudice, check out these movies.
I mean,
Got
yeah,
it.
pretty much, pretty
Okay.
much.
Okay. Just curious, because again, this is the episode to talk about it. I would say, just for myself, this is much more of a genre that I very much. I mean, it's kind of a little bit more all over the place. Like it's not very era specific, but I mean, probably my favorite movie, but maybe I feel like picking one movie is kind of hard. But La La Land, oof, the banter in that. If you like the banter in When Harry Met Sally, you will like La La Land. The musical stuff aside,
I think the banter is better, actually, but I would rather have a happy ending romance movie, I
ugh.
guess.
Anyway, again, just in case we at some point talk La La Land, I don't want to get too far into it.
I'm sure we will at some point.
Amelie is really good. I've seen that many
Oh,
times.
shit. That's a
I've seen
great
that
movie. I
in
own that.
theaters. It's great.
Yeah, I've seen that a bunch. That's a great movie.
Her is very good.
Her's kind of a crushing movie.
It is, but that's fine. Past Lives, if this was
Ooh,
2023.
I'm sensing a theme.
Licorice Pizza is a positive romance movie, which I still would like you to watch and us talk about at some point, but I don't know when that's going to happen.
Have you ever seen Eternal Sunshine?
I have. I didn't like it.
Really?
I granted I saw it once and I saw it at someone's house who was a big fan, and then just I think
Okay, that's fair.
the setting that I saw it in may not have contributed to me liking it.
Okay.
But Silver Linings Playbook, Midnight in Paris, Palm Springs, 500 Days of Summer is a classic.
I like 500 Days of Summer. I for personal reasons, I don't really like the romance in that.
Well,
Like,
no, that I think that's what maybe this is a separate conversation, but like it's not healthy romance for
no,
anyone. And like people for like again, I think I was one of these people for a long time misconstrued it as like good romance and him being the good guy when he's really not
that
that.
is
No,
he is such a
I know.
shitty person.
Well, I mean, yes and no.
I mean,
He
he is
was
a
naive.
realistically flawed person, I would say.
He is a naive man who has expectations for what love should be. And
I would
Joseph
say,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt
yeah,
has literally talked about this.
yeah. In the same way that like David Fincher will go on in interviews and say, "Look, you are not supposed to relate to anyone from Fight Club. If
Mhm.
you relate to anyone from Fight Club, get mental help. You shouldn't be seeing Tyler Durden as this deep intellectual figure."
Princess Bride, a classic. Blue
Yeah,
Valentine, a
yeah,
classic.
no, fuck that.
Yeah. Gatsby. Oh, actually, okay. This is a like I don't want
I
to say
like
this is a guilt.
Gatsby a
Well,
hell
I
of a
know.
lot, but like
I
I
do
don't know if that's
too.
a good romance.
No, I don't think so either. But again, there's a time where I very much like connected with that view. Um,
Yeah.
but this is a guilty pleasure. It's a fun movie. I don't know why I didn't even think of this for us to watch, but Crazy Stupid Love with Julianne
Oh, it's
Moore,
fun.
Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, and Emma Stone. That's
Yeah.
a very good, like, that's a good, fun rom com. They do not make that anymore.
No.
I would, if you like a good rom com, check that out.
I think it was very unfortunately named
It's
because
okay.
that movie doesn't really help sell it.
It's kind of, it's too
It's
generic.
too
I don't know.
Hallmark.
Yeah, it is very Hallmark, and the movie is not overly Hallmark.
Not really, no.
Um, yeah, I think that's all I would reference. I think there's plenty of movies that we'll talk about in the future, but this has been, I think, our third or fourth special feature of the Movie Bros podcast, where we talk A, obviously about movies, but B, about a holiday specific movie for whatever month we're in. If you like this, let us know. If you don't like this, shut up and don't say a word.
No, we need all the audience we can get. Don't insult the audience.
They will follow us blindly, Hayden. We are the leaders of the cult. We are not a follower of the cult.
So what do we call the cult members?
We're still workshopping those ideas. I think we're still
We're
thinking on
still
it.
we're still workshopping it. Okay.
Uh, Check back in 2 days, since this is going to be coming out on Friday, for Oppenheimer on Sunday. And yeah,
For a completely different vibe.
and hopefully you have a nice, enjoyable holiday. And if that's with a romantic partner, your pet, your family, your friends, yourself, as that
With
is the
us,
most
perhaps.
important, with us maybe for about an hour and a half, probably after we trim out stuff. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, we'll catch you all next time.
Thanks for listening.